So, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sharon Whiteman, and it's my great pleasure and privilege to be here with each and every one of you, either live on a Saturday morning or later down the track. I know these recordings are the gift that keeps on giving. And, if you're new here today, you're going to want to share the recording with everyone you love and care about. I mean, there's nothing more ethical than representing Manitech to our friends and family and the people that we care of, because everybody, I think we can all notice the world we've had for the last several years, and it's not getting better in the short term. So our body needs extra help. And we're very privileged today to have Dr. Steve Nugent. He's Manitech's Chief Science Officer and Chairman of the Global Scientific Advisory Board. He has more than 40 years of experience in the area of integrative medicine, and he's tested more than 6,000 dietary supplement products and formulated more than 100. He is internationally recognized as an expert in his field, and he's been teaching doctors for more than 30 years. He is Manitech's most requested speaker worldwide, and he's earned multiple degrees, graduating with top honors at both the undergraduate and graduate levels. His areas of studies include integrative medicine, health and wellness psychology, leadership psychology, organizational psychology, neuropsychology, biological anthropology, nutrition science, and business administration. Dr. Nugent has served as president of the International Association of Complementary Medicine and as president emeritus of the American Naturopathic Medical Association. He is a professional member of the American College of Nutrition, and he was also awarded the Servant's Heart Award by Manitech Associates in 2007. Dr. Nugent is one of Australasia's favorites. He carries in his heart that he's so passionate about the health and well-being and the education of everybody it comes into contact with. He's passionate about giving the power of wellness back into our hands, everyday people who haven't been educated by the health system or our families over the years to realize what's really going on with food supply. So one thing we're also not taught in our doctor's office is how to be proactive, protective, and maintaining and improving our health. And AO, the product that's featured today, is scientifically proven to increase your oxidative stress protection by 2.5 times. And Dr. Nugent will give us a really in-depth view on how potent this is. So, and if you're just arriving, we do have a special offer on AO this month. So make sure you ask the person that invited you here, but it's very generous offers for such an important product. So Dr. Nugent, I'll hand over to you. Thank you so very much for being here.
Thank you, Sharon. It's always a pleasure. And a big hello to all my friends in Australasia. I miss you guys. And I'm told we have some folks on an incentive in Yarrow. And so, yep, hello to all you folks.
Yeah, hi to our Yarra friends.
Yeah.
We're jealous.
I'm sorry?
We're jealous.
Yeah.
They're having a great time down there.
I'm told that some of you will be joining me in Thailand at the grand opening.
That's
so
correct.
I'll see some of you there. That's in September. And that's so we've got the hellos taken care of. I guess it's time to start talking about product and science, huh?
Absolutely. And just one administrative thing. If you want to chat to everyone, make sure you're choosing everyone in the chat box. Otherwise, you just talk to us panelists here. So Dr. Nugent, I'm going to sit back and listen and learn. Thank you so much.
Okay. And just so that everyone knows, I do not see the chat when I'm presenting. So I want you all to please chat with each other, and certainly you need to let our call moderators know what you're thinking and all that. But I won't be able to see that. So if you're waiting for me to respond, don't, because I won't see it. Okay. All right, let's get started here. Today we're going to talk about AO. Now, AO is very often confused with general ambrotos. So let's start and get this straight right from the top. I'm sorry that it was named ambrotos AO. I didn't name it. I'm told that after I've made this point very strongly with our new folks in charge of marketing, that they are going to change the name of the product to something more appropriate. But in the meantime, it is still called ambrotos AO. The AO stands for antioxidant because it is Manitech's dedicated antioxidant product. And as I talk about the science, you will hear that it is the best antioxidant product based on the most sophisticated testing for oxidative stress that you can do in science today. So it's an antioxidant product. It's not a replacement for amytose. Okay, so we have that clear right from the get-go. But what you're looking at right now is this is from a slide using a microscope, looking at human cells. And most of these cells are very, very healthy. So they look like little discs and they're very healthy. And there's just a couple of them here and there that are not healthy. They don't look like smooth discs. You should have, the cells should look very smooth at this magnification. Now, because if we got at a greater magnification, we could see all the glycans on the cells. And of course, then it wouldn't look smooth because you'd see all the glycans. But at this magnification, it should look just smooth like you're seeing. These are healthy cells. These are cells which have not been attacked by something called free radical oxidative stress. Now, free radicals will attack your cells kind of in the same way that rust attacks metal. It's very, very similar. And in fact, rust is oxidative stress on metal. Now, your cells, if they are not protected, if they don't have the antioxidant protection they need, instead of looking like nice, healthy, smooth discs, this is what they look like. They have been damaged. They have been attacked by free radicals. Now, when you start to have this level of attack, you can find yourself with all manner of health situations. In fact, we know today that oxidative stress, free radicals caused by oxidative stress, are now linked to 68 different health concerns. 68. And a lot of people, they just think of one thing when they think of free radical oxidative stress, but it's linked to 68 different health issues. So you don't want that. You want to protect your cells, and you do that with adequate antioxidant protection. Well, everybody's heard about antioxidants, and people talk about things like glutathione and vitamin E and vitamin C and plant phenols, and the list goes on. And all these things have antioxidant value, that they do. And according to Dr. Les Packard from the University of California at Berkeley, he says you can't eat enough food to meet today's requirements. And those of you who are veterans of this call, you've heard me say many times, and in fact, I'm going to repeat it again, because I'm always hopeful that new people will be on the call and they have not heard that information. So part of my presentation this morning is going to be talking about the difference between the ancestral diet and the modern diet. This is just a different way to look at it. Can you eat enough to give you everything you need? And the answer is no, you can't. In fact, according to Dr. he says that you would have to eat 100 pounds of liver per day or 125 tablespoons of peanut butter per day to get enough vitamin E, just enough vitamin E. Now, that doesn't account for the vitamin C and the vitamin A, the other antioxidant factors that your body requires. We are living in a time, my friends, where it's just no longer a luxury to take dietary supplements. There was a time when it was a luxury, and only a small number of people would buy them and use them. But folks, in the 21st century, things have changed. And those of you who are veterans on this call, you know that one of the first questions you get when you're talking with a brand new person who's never heard about Manitech, and they say to you, well, I don't know if I really need supplements. Do I really need them? You see, when you are going low on different nutrients that your body requires to maintain normal, healthy function, it's gradual. It's gradual because your body is genetically programmed to maintain something called homeostasis, or balance in plain language. So your body's always looking at, if there's a weak area, it will rob nutrients from a stronger area and pay the weak area so that you can try and maintain balance. It'll do that for as long as it possibly can. At some point, though, you can only rob so much from Peter to pay Paul, and Peter doesn't have anything left for you to rob from. This is why we need to be thinking about dietary supplements every day as part of our daily health program. I like to say to people that dietary supplements should be part of your grocery budget. That's how important they are, because they are food supplements. They are there to supplement what may be missing in your diet. That's the idea. So in the 21st century, things have definitely changed. Things are definitely not the same as they were. It wasn't all that long ago before we were in the 20th century. But things are changing, and they're changing rapidly, unfortunately. So I want you to think of your body, for those of you who are new to the call, I want you to think of your body as an organic machine, knowing, of course, that machines need to be fueled, and that fuel is nutrition. Ideally, all of that nutrition should come from food, ideally. But can you eat enough of every single need to give you every single nutrient your body requires in the amount to match the stresses of the 21st century? That's the question. Now, you can take a choice if you wish and say, I'm just going to take a chance on this. Maybe I'm just not going to supplement, and maybe nothing will happen to me. Mm-hmm. And then if something happens to you, then what do you do? Folks, you should be thinking preventives every day. Just like you think about trying to maintain a normal, healthy diet every day, supplements are part of the diet to fuel your organic machine. And I like to make the analogy, and some of you have seen me make this analogy many times, and you will see it again, I promise, of our ancestors being in a much lower stress environment than we are in, much lower. In fact, for the majority of the existence of the human race, according to all the science that exists at this moment, we know that our ancestors had much lower stress on their immune systems particularly, but they certainly had much lower environmental stress for most of human history. The environment, and there were a couple of times when that wasn't true, but for most of human history, the environment has been very, very clean, very clean. Clean air, clean water, clean soil, and soil that was rich in nutrients. And of course, the majority of the time that humans have been alive, according to the scientists who study that area, that is not my area, by the way, but according to the scientists who study in that area, they tell us that our ancestors were hunter-gatherers until about 11,000 years ago, when farming began. They also tell us that when we started farming, our health began to decline. The farmers always get mad when I say that, but I want you to think about this in context. Your body requires a very wide variety of nutrients. The more narrow your diet is, the lower your health is going to go. Your body requires a broad spectrum of nutrients. Hunter-gatherers get that because hunter-gatherers don't eat for pleasure. They don't eat because they like the taste of something. They eat to survive. And they eat as they are following the herds. So they'll get a little meat here and there. And in between, they're eating berries and nuts and seeds and roots and tubers and so on. So they're getting this wide variety of diet our ancestors had until about 11,000 years ago. At that time, the fossil record indicates that our ancestors began to develop significant percentages of degenerative diseases. And this goes back to the fact that they were not getting all of the nutrients they needed. Their diets became very, very narrow because as they farmed, they might, as an example, an entire village might be harvesting only barley or only wheat or only corn. And of course, they're making bread, and the bread fills them up and it gives them energy calories so that they can keep moving and working, but they're not getting all the nutrition they need. They're not getting the spectrum that they need. So our ancestors would be equivalent to a car driving on a level road, because we know that a car driving on a level road gets better fuel economy than a car driving uphill. So if the car you're looking at right now is driving 5 kilometers, it would burn up a certain amount of fuel. It would cause a certain amount of wear and tear on the parts of the car. But if that car was driving 5 kilometers uphill, even though the distance is the same, the stress on the car would be much higher. So more fuel would be required. There'd be more wear and tear on the parts. And this is the best comparison that I can make. This is the one that works for me. Hopefully it works for you. To say, well, this is the way it used to be, and this is the way it is today. And we have to adjust to the way things are today. And of course, to really solidify that, there are now 67 countries out of our, I believe it's 192 countries. And of course, if somebody has a coup, then that changes, all right? But around 190 countries. So 67 countries have now made it law that if a company is going to make bread or muffins or cakes or whatever they make that is food for you to buy ready-made at the store, that the companies have to add nutrition to it. 67 countries now require that by federal law. Now, if the food supply gave you everything you needed, would they require that by law? Of course they would. And this is why you see breakfast cereals that are fortified. That's the famous word they like to use, or enriched. I love it when they say it's enriched. Okay. In other words, we are selling you a depleted food product, but we're going to try and balance it out by enriching it with various nutrients. That's the world we live in today, my friends. All right. So this is just a simple chart. Eaton's team was looking into the diet of our ancestors versus the modern diet. It's real obvious on this graph. I don't even have to talk about it. You can see it very, very easily. And then, of course, people will say to you, well, you know, lots of companies have dietary supplements, and, you know, I could buy all kinds of stuff online, and, you know, and then why Manatech? What makes you guys so special? What makes us special is science. And that I'm going to show you during this call. Science, safety, and efficacy. We use science to establish safety of our products. We use science to establish the effectiveness of our products. Science is the basis of who we are at Manatech. We are the science company. Now, some of you might say, oh, well, I have a customer that said that they thought that, you know, company X or company Z had, or you would say company Z, I guess, they claim they've got science. Claims are easy to make. What can they prove? Let me tell you a little bit about science in our industry. It's almost non-existent. It's almost non-existent because it's not required. No company in the world is required to do real science, do human double-blind placebo-controlled testing on their finished products. It's not required because these are food supplements and they're not pharmaceuticals. Now, with pharmaceuticals, it's always required, of course. So what our competitors almost always do is maybe they'll grab one ingredient that's been studied by whomever, and then they'll take that one ingredient, they'll throw it in a product, and their whole product has not been studied. So they don't know for sure what their whole finished product will do, but they'll say to you on their websites, we have this magical ingredient that's been clinically studied and clinically validated and so on and so forth. Well, the buyer, the customer, very often doesn't hear the fine points on that. Okay. They have not done a study on their finished product. But you might say, why does that matter? It matters. Folks, if you have nutrient A and nutrient B, all right? Nutrient A may have one effect that's completely different than nutrient B. And you can reliably say that nutrient A always does this, nutrient B always does that. Here's the problem. When you combine nutrient A and nutrient B together, now you have something different. Now you don't know what it's going to do, because when the two there are combined, you have a completely different function. So why is it important to study your finished product and not just tout some magical, mythical ingredient in your finished product? Because you want to know for sure if, number one, it's safe, if number two, it's actually effective. That's what we do at Manitech. Science, safety, efficacy, all based on science. It all ties back to science. The majority of Manitech products, our flagship products, have been studied with human double-blind placebo-controlled tests. That, my friends, is the gold standard in science. Very, very expensive to do. And another reason why our competitors don't do it, they don't need to do it. And if they spend the money on a scientific test and they can still get away with selling their product without testing, why would they reduce profit to the shareholders, right? So that's why the majority of products in our industry do not do human double blinds on their finished products. Manitech does. We are the science company. And do we make less money than those companies that don't do the science? Yeah, of course, because science is expensive. But we feel much better about it at Manitech because we know what our products do. So we are the only company in this industry that could claim that they started a new field of science. We literally pioneered the science of nutritional glycobiology, and we have spent tens of millions of US dollars on science, scientific research, scientific equipment, tens of millions of US dollars. I don't even know what the number is right now. And when you come to visit our world headquarters in a place called Flower Mound, Texas, which is very near Dallas, Texas, the first thing you see when you walk in the front entrance, big glass window, and you can see on the other side of that big window is our state-of-the-art lab. And I think that's pretty important for everyone to see. We have earned more than 150 patents in our 30 years of existence. Yeah, we've been around for more than 30 years. That's pretty amazing too. More than 150 patents. Now, patents do expire in 20 years. So many of our patents have expired. We still have more than 90 patents in force, and we have new patents pending. But even for the products where the patents expired, we maintain exclusive ingredients, and we have exclusive processing that won't be done by anyone else in the industry, because only we know how to do it for our flagship products. I think that's pretty important. But the fact that we pioneered a field of science, no other company in the world can say that. Nutrition company can say that, only Manitech. That's how much of a science company we are. Now, if many of you have heard me talk about this before, I'll do this very quickly because I want to get into the hard science about AO and talk more about that. But let's finish establishing our baseline here. We know now that humans do not eat sufficient antioxidants in the modern diet. How do we know this? We know this by human testing, where there have now been tests repeated again and again and again using serum ORAC. I'll explain what that means in a few minutes. Highly sophisticated, very expensive form of scientific testing to verify whether people are getting sufficient levels of antioxidant nutrients from their diet. You remember I talked about the broad spectrum of nutrition? Antioxidants are only one category. You need nutrients for so many different functions in the human body. Protecting you from free radicals is only one function. And that's what we're focused on right now, just that function. Well, back in 1995, the very first test done by any government agency in the world was done by the US Department of Agriculture. And they came out and they said, you know what? People aren't getting enough antioxidant to cope with the amount of air pollution and water pollution, chemicals in our environment, chemicals in our food. They're just not getting enough. So they said everybody should eat at least 5 to 7 servings of fresh fruits and vegetables every day. Fresh, folks, not canned, not frozen, not packed in syrup, okay? Fresh fruits and vegetables. And then they did a follow-up survey and found out that only 11% of the people in the United States were consuming at least 5 servings a day. That's a pretty bad record. Every time the test was repeated, the minimum number of fruits and vegetable servings required per day kept going up and up and up and up until by the year 2012, they just said, you know what, we're not going to do this test anymore. It's too expensive, and it says the same thing every year, that we need to keep increasing the servings of fruits and vegetables, and nobody's eating the minimum servings now. Now, there are some exceptions, of course. I said 11%. And that, you know, those people who are dedicated vegans were probably eating enough, not now, but they were then, because the number keeps going up. Well, when they got up to 13 servings a day, it's like, oh, forget it. 13, who's going to eat 13 servings a day? I mean, that's fine for a cow. That's not good for a human. We don't have time to do that. And we can't afford it. My gosh. According to one survey that was done, it said that 38% of fresh produce is thrown away each week. People go to the grocery store, they buy the fresh produce, and end up throwing away an average of 38% of that stuff because it goes bad, even in the fridge. You know that you can't keep your vegetables and fruits fresh very long, even with refrigeration. So, folks, it's unlikely that diet alone is going to do the job, just really unlikely. And then, of course, there was another study, a famous study done, published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, a very important journal globally. And that study said most people do not get enough vitamins. Now, it's a separate category. We were talking about antioxidants. And yes, there are a few vitamins that are antioxidants, but most of them are not. So here are just vitamins, not enough vitamins by diet alone. And in the US, we're 76%, and I do not have a number for every single country on the planet, but let's face it, folks, we're not that different, okay? You know, we speak with different accents, but we're really not that different between Australasia and the US and Canada and England and South Africa and so on, okay? So 76% of Americans are taking dietary supplements. Cool. And if the food supply was very good, like always told that it is, then there'd be very few people who needed a supplement, right? Except the latest US government survey says 90% of Americans are deficient in at least one nutrient, and more than 70% of Americans are deficient in a variety of nutrients. Now, what's the number in Australia, New Zealand, Singapore? I'm not sure. But again, we're not that different. And all of us are subject to the same stresses. Now, you might say to yourself, well, the air in New Zealand is clean. Don't fool yourself. The water in New Zealand, there's no pollution around New Zealand. I'm sorry, folks, that simply is not true. It's just not true. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. So let's talk about ambertose as an antioxidant. The idea with ambertose is to help protect your body from oxidative stress. And you want the highest and most efficient level of protection that you can possibly get. Now, I wrote a book back in 2004. Well, I wrote several books, but I wrote one called How to Survive on a Toxic Planet. And the theme, of course, of the book was how toxic the environment was becoming. And I gave data from 2004. And what you're looking at right now was 2004 data. And what it told us is that since the year 1930, which is the beginning of the age of synthetic chemistry, more than 75,000 chemicals had been registered with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Now, I use the U.S. EPA because they always have more chemicals registered with that agency than any other government agency of its type in the world. So 75,000 chemicals made by synthetic chemistry that had not existed in Earth's environment before the year 1930. So we start to look backwards and we start to do some correlation between degeneration of various aspects of health of people who were born before 1930 and those born after 1930. And we get some pretty disturbing correlations. You may also be surprised to know that the majority of these synthetic chemicals have not, N-O-T, not been tested for safety in human beings. Now you probably think, oh, well, surely that's automatic. Surely the governments require that. Well, surely they do. Generally, testing on these are done after there's a problem. In the United States, there have been, unfortunately, many communities, which are communities very close to places that were either chemical plants or they happen to be downwind. Now, they might be downwind by 100 miles or 500 miles or 1,000 miles. It wouldn't make any difference because the chemicals are still going up into the atmosphere. They get caught in the atmosphere and they are being carried by the weather systems from west to east 24 hours a day around the planet. Now, there were some scientists who decided that they were going to test, and they were with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. They decided that they were going to test to find out if there were any unusual chemicals in various freshwater lakes and rivers. So they went out with their equipment that was calibrated to detect known chemicals. That's an important point. Calibrated to detect known chemicals. And they started coming up with chemical compounds that were unknown. Ooh. They did some further experiments and found that when known chemical compounds come together in water and they combine, they make a brand new compound. Remember my example of A and B? They make a brand new compound that does something entirely different. Oh. And they said there are probably more than 100,000 chemicals in the environment based on our data at that time. Well, now, fast forwarding to 2024, there are now more than 300,000 chemicals known in our environment, synthetic chemicals. 300,000. Folks, it's not getting better. I know human beings, I believe, and I don't have a study to prove this, but I believe that human beings are genetically programmed to think optimistically. We want to believe things are going to be okay. We want to give people the benefit of the doubt. We want to think, yeah, the companies, they come on TV and they say they're going green. They say they're cleaning up the environment. They say they care about us. But the numbers say they don't. This is serious, my friends. Now, I've always been struck from the very first time that I visited New Zealand. What a gorgeous place New Zealand is. It is so beautiful. It's an amazing place. And you know, the locals are trusting, they're being optimistic. They're trying to believe their eyes, and they're trying to believe their sense of smell. And they're thinking, you know what? There's pollution everywhere on the planet except New Zealand. Well, it's not, folks, that's just not real. That's just not happening. Of the thousands and thousands of chemicals, there's only a few hundred that you can see with your eyes. There's only a few hundred that you can smell with your nose or taste with your sense of taste. The majority of these chemicals are so unnatural to planet Earth that the human sensory system simply cannot detect them. Your sensory system was developed to detect things that are natural to the planet. So if a tiger's creeping up on you, you can hear it, you can see it. If it gets close enough, you'll smell it. And that's what you're designed to detect, things that are natural to this planet, not things that are unnatural that do not belong here. There simply is no way to predict how many compounds are now on this planet, as two different compounds that were never meant to be together. They meet in water, they combine. Now imagine a third and a fourth and a 10th and a 50th all combining with each other, creating something completely new from that. We have no idea what's going on in our environment right now. We just know that people aren't well. You're not going to see the headline on any newspaper or digital online newspaper that says, "We want to announce today that the world is healthier." You're not going to see that, folks. It's not going to happen. You have to take responsibility for you. No one else will. And if you're relying on the government to take care of you, as they say in America, I got a bridge I'd like to sell you. You can look that up and understand what the satire is behind that. So I like to use the example of farm pesticides. Pesticides have been documented in the snow, in the air, in the ice of the North Pole. There's no farms up there. Also, in the fatty tissue of penguins and fish at the South Pole. Farms down there. In fact, we're talking about thousands of kilometers between any farm and the North or the South Pole. Thousands of kilometers. But this stuff is there. Right now, the pollution in fish, because fish have to swim in the water. But you think about it. Gills, they breathe through their gills. They have to pass water through their tissue in order to breathe. That means whatever chemical is in the water goes in the tissue of the fish. They can't escape it. And you consume that fish, you consume the chemical. And I'm not just talking about mercury, I'm talking about chemicals. It's serious stuff, folks. It's very, very serious. And you need the best antioxidant protection you can get, which is leading me to Manatex Ambrotose AO. Now, we used a test, a scientific test called serum ORAC. ORAC stands for oxygen radical absorption capacity, or the capacity of any molecule to potentially negate harmful free radicals. Serum means blood. So we did human double-blind placebo-controlled testing, but first we did nearly 4 years of laboratory study to find the best synergistic combination of nutrients. We did this, imagine this, folks, imagine the complexity of this. We looked at all the literature on the planet of things that claim to be antioxidants, things that are bona fide antioxidants, things that are in folklore, things that are in Oriental medicine, Indian medicine, Chinese medicine, all of these different things. We looked at all things claiming to be antioxidant. And we began testing in our lab every day. In fact, we had so much testing to do that we had to get doctoral candidate students in chemistry and biochemistry to come and work in our lab at our various workstations because we had so many tests to do. It was probably going to take us 10 years. So test this antioxidant with this one, A with B, what happens? A with B with C, what happens? A with B with C with D, what happens? It was an enormous amount of study. When we arrived at what we thought was the most synergistic blend based on laboratory analysis, we did our first human study, a human double-blind placebo control study, the gold standard of science. Every Wednesday, our participants gave blood and urine. That blood and urine was then sealed and transported through a medical legal agency, so it couldn't be touched by any, couldn't be tampered with, from our lab to a hospital lab where all the testing was done. So we know these tests were good. We did the first test and we were astounded. In fact, we weren't just astounded, we were, well, shocked. Because what we found was that one capsule of AO caused antioxidant protection to raise in human blood an average of 37.4%, whereas 5 servings of fresh fruits and vegetables using the same test would raise serum ORAC protection by only 13%. 13% is still good, but 37.4% from one capsule? One capsule! We thought, oh man, we probably made a mistake somewhere. So we repeated the test. Guess what? We didn't make a mistake. And then our third test, we did it where we had a lot of smokers in that because our first 2 tests were, quote, healthy individuals, or they believe themselves. And then with our third test, we found the same thing. AO is, folks, it is based on serum ORAC, human double-blind placebo-controlled testing. It is the best antioxidant on planet Earth. If you don't take it every day, you are foolish. Because living on this planet, you better be doing that. 2 capsules a day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening, 2 capsules a day. Don't be foolish with your health. You can take 2 capsules a day. It's not tough. So we've done 3 human double-blind placebo-controlled tests. Now, something else our competitors do a lot of is they like to lean into the water-soluble antioxidants, because water-soluble antioxidants can fluoresce if you put them in a test tube with a chemical reagent. And then they create this phony method of measurement that's called ORAC-FL. So you take your compound, whatever it is, you put it in a test tube, then you add some chemical reagent to the test tube, and you hope it will fluoresce. And then they measure the fluorescence, the intensity, the brightness of the fluorescence. And they equate, not using a human blood test. Don't ask me how they equate this. It's not science. It's marketing. And they equate this level of fluorescence to oxidative stress protection. And then they say, our ORAC protection units, by the way, I love that term, ORAC protection units, Whoever thought of it should have gotten a raise because it's brilliant. Now it's nonsense, but it's brilliant nonsense. I wish we would have thought of it, right? So you see all of our competitors, they say, oh, our product gives you 50,000 ORAC protection units, 100,000. This is all based on the fluorescence. Now, folks, only water solubles fluoresce to begin with. Number two is that you must have fat soluble antioxidants. You have to have both. If you don't have both, you don't have oxidative protection. You have some, but you don't have complete oxidative protection. So you have to have fat and water soluble. Our product is fat and water soluble. And we know, based on these human clinical double blinds, that we have the best antioxidant on planet Earth. And you'd be foolish not to take one capsule twice daily. Really foolish. That product is so unique among antioxidant products. It has earned 53 patents, all on its own. 53 patents. You show me a competing antioxidant product with 53 patents. Well, you can't, because there isn't. This is pretty amazing stuff. So if you want to help your body guard against oxidative stress, you want AO. If you want to protect your body with both fat soluble and water soluble antioxidants to maximize that benefit, you want AO. If you want to support your immune system, because oxidative stress affects a lot of things in your body, and many of those things are immune related. In fact, you don't have complete immune protection unless you have antioxidant protection. So whatever you think you're doing for your immune system, you want to make sure that you add AO to it so that you are getting solid protection, both the standard immune factors and antioxidant factors. As far as defense against free radicals, there just isn't anything better. That is based on human serum ORAC testing. Again, that's the gold standard of testing. And by the way, it's an excellent source of vitamin C and vitamin E as well. So again, healthy cells, the majority of those under the microscope, unhealthy cells that have been attacked by free radicals. Which one do you want? Well, I want the healthy ones. Everyone else should too. And that's why you should be taking one AO capsule every morning and one every evening. Now, interestingly, the formula, and we are not going to divulge to anyone, this is a proprietary formulation. Those are the basics in the formula, along with 310 milligrams of a special blend of ambrotos. A lot of people say to me, which ambrotos is in AO? Is it complex? Is it life? And not every country has life. Some countries have it, some don't. Is it advanced? It's not any of the three. It's a special blend that we made to give an enhanced function to the other ingredients that you see on the screen right now. Now, the amounts and ratios is what counts. That's what we did in our testing for nearly 4 years in the lab.
Now,
So
Dr. Nugent, it's Dr. Nugent, Sharon, we
Yes.
don't see your slides any longer. Something's changed. I thought you
don't
were
see my slides?
wrapping up. Yeah, sorry. Slides would make
Sharon, I can see them.
Okay. All right.
Well, right
Okay.
now it says just the ingredients in the product.
Okay.
Right.
They've disappeared from me, which I only see you, so apologies.
Oh,
Zoom's being a bit weird today. Your volume is adjusting to Dr. Nugent, so but we can't figure out, it's not with movement. So apologies for interrupting.
oh, okay. Yeah, all right. Maybe something to do with your bandwidth and so on. Well, anyway, I'm hoping that everyone can see this slide. I'll be on it for a few seconds, and then I'll move on to the next. But so we have mixed tocopherols of vitamin E. Vitamin E is not one tocopherol, it is several tocopherols. Otherwise, it's not vitamin E. So it's not just D alpha. We took phenols from green tea, not all the green tea, just phenols. We took quercetin, and you can get quercetin from a number of plants. I personally like quercetin from onions. It's a very, very good source of quercetin, grapeseed extract, and of course, natural vitamin C. Now, the thing with vitamin C, we started this product and we may still in Australasia, and I'm not sure, it depends on inventory. We started with vitamin C from the Australian bush plum. And we bought just a ton of bush plum. It's easy to keep it stable in our temperature controlled warehouse, so we can keep it for a very long time. And the marketing pitch is not the science pitch. So I'll reiterate the marketing pitch, and then I'll tell you the science. The marketing pitch was, we like to use the Australian bush plum because it has the highest level of vitamin C of any known fruit. That's a true statement, but it's also an irrelative statement. Irrelevant statement. It's irrelevant because it doesn't matter how much vitamin C is in the plum. We're going to put a certain amount of vitamin C in every capsule, regardless of how much was in the plum. Hopefully everyone understands the difference said. So the marketing statement's very cool. It's a very cool statement. That's what marketing does. And people love the statement and they keep repeating it all the time, but without thinking it through. So there's a certain amount of vitamin C, and whether the vitamin C comes from a bush plum, acerola cherry, or camu camu, or it doesn't matter what the source is. If it's natural vitamin C, the structure of the vitamin is identical. So not to worry about that, should that ever change. And I'm not sure if that ever will change, but should it ever change, that's something that question's been answered for you already. So AO, you have a special on it. I don't know what the special is, but I know that Sharon can come back and reiterate that for you probably. This, my friends, is the most extraordinary antioxidant product on planet Earth, as validated by human double-blind placebo-controlled testing. If you don't take AO every day, you are so foolish. And it's so easy to do. One capsule twice daily. So easy. Please, folks, do what you can every day. Every day, all of you. Do the best you can every day to protect your health and the health of everyone you love. And for that matter, be generous, okay? Even people you don't like, try and help them out with this, okay? Because they're people too, and they deserve a chance. So, AO, if you don't have it yet, get it. Start taking it every day. Yeah, that's all I have, and I'm turning this back over to you, Sharon.
That's awesome. Your education is so in-depth and so passionate, Dr. Nugent, and so comprehensive and easy to understand. We're so grateful for you. I have a couple questions if you have a few minutes.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
It's quite popular in wellness communities now, and including my own, is NAC, so N-acetylcysteine. And it's widely used for certain conditions and oxidative stress. Is there a comparison? How can you compare them to AO?
Well, it doesn't really compare. There is antioxidant benefit with NAC, but there are other things that are more prioritized benefits with it. As an example, it's very important for certain aspects of immune support. It's incredibly, hugely important for liver support. So it has a lot of other things that it does better than it does antioxidant. And what we did with AO, remember, I don't even remember how many different things we tested, but we just had this mountain of bottles of herbals, vitamins, minerals. I mean, you name it. We had all these things that were tested in the lab, again, for very close to 4 years of laboratory testing. What we did is we chose the ones that gave us the best response. And combining NAC in this group that we put together, it didn't give us a response that we got from this. This particular group of nutrients at very specific ratios, and that's really important, the ratio of one to another, because what we found was that ratios count with oxidative stress. And that was something that nobody knew before we started doing the testing. Nobody knew that. So that's important as well. So it isn't just the ingredients we picked, which are the most synergistic together. Remember A to B, making C, reaction C kind of thing, but also the most synergistic together.
That's an awesome distinction, isn't it? It's really important. I'm glad that question was asked. Thank you. And one final question is recommendations for children. So in different age groups from 3 upwards. Is it different in each country? That one of those tricky things?
It's actually, it is different in each country, and we have certain legal limitations in each country, and I'm not sure what they are in your 3 countries. I know that in the US, we are not permitted to make recommendations for children under 12 at all. Now that has
They don't
nothing
need
to
nutrition.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with science, absolutely nothing to do with science.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with safety. It's about lawsuits.
Yeah.
You know, because if anything happens to a child, the parents go ballistic, and they should. And then there are lawsuits that have no merit, but they still tie up your company for years in court. So, and the US is the most litigious, I'm told, of all the countries on planet Earth. So our legal department says, no, don't make a recommendation. So let me say it this way. There's nothing in there that is potentially harmful to someone under, I'll probably get shot for saying that now. Forget I said that.
Fruits and vegetables aren't potentially harmful to children.
Yeah, that's right.
Dr. Nugent, God bless you. Thank you so very much. It's been a wonderful hour with you, and we're all better off. And as we said, if if this makes sense to you, which it should, there's a very special deal. So get back to the person who invited you. There's the free promotion for AO in August, and there's some varying ways which you can take advantage of that. So just check it out, and we highly recommend making sure that AO is part of your daily routine. Dr. Nugent, God bless you, and thank you, and we'll see you in about a month.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
And some of you in Thailand.
Yeah, that's exciting. Bye, everyone. Have a great weekend.